Chad, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So it seems like the market is a little bit obsessed at the moment with the AI trade or the SpaceX IPO, that they are overlooking some of the great things that are being built in Bitcoin or on Bitcoin. I'd like you to start with the why. Like, what were some of the challenges that you were trying to solve when building OpNet, and why did you choose to do it at the layer one level rather than, so for example, layer two?
Yeah, no problem. So, I think that Bitcoin needs more use cases. I think that right now in the modern era, you have a lot of institutional inflow into Bitcoin. You have more banks, more average everyday investors getting into Bitcoin. And most of those types of investors are looking for their investments to work for them in some way, shape, or form. And Bitcoin itself, it has kind of patently failed as a peer-to-peer value transfer, which is kind of what it was supposed to be for. And it has this digital gold narrative around it right now, but there's nothing from a code base level that is making the price of Bitcoin double every 4 years. So it's not inherently the perfect store of value. So it has some sort of middle ground that it needs to hit where, it acts as a decent store of value, but I think a lot of people want their Bitcoin to start working for them. And so being able to use your Bitcoin in kind of like a Bitcoin-centered economy where you can build applications on Bitcoin, you can use the Bitcoin network in a way that works much more like Ethereum. It opens up the door for yield on Bitcoin and stable coins on Bitcoin and all these great functionalities that the rest of the world kind of gets to benefit from, that Bitcoin kind of has no real way to touch right now. And so if you have something like OpNet, which is like a smart contract protocol for Bitcoin, all of a sudden it opens up all these doors to building applications, starting this like big economy within the Bitcoin network itself.
And so what was it that convinced you that it wasn't only, because, there's a lot about the way that Bitcoin is actually built that makes it difficult to build on it. What was it that convinced you that it's not only possible, but also necessary for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of DeFi. I think that one of crypto's greatest inventions is DeFi, so decentralized lending, decentralized trading, decentralized exchanges, being able to issue new assets on a crypto blockchain. These are the things I think that are some of the biggest benefits that crypto has brought to the industry. And so on Bitcoin itself, yeah, you have a lot of kind of limitations from a code perspective, but a lot of this stuff has been possible. The first stablecoin, Tether, was actually issued first on a Bitcoin sidechain called OmniLayer. So Tether started on Bitcoin. And so there have been a lot of experiments. Ethereum started as an experiment to put smart contracts on Bitcoin, and eventually they gave up and they started their own chain. But this has been kind of something that has been a holy grail for a lot of kind of OGs in the space for a long time. And, me and my team, given all the advancements in the technology that you have with crypto, given all the advancements in, I think, the maturity of the market and also the tooling that exists out there with the advancement of AI, you have kind of a perfect storm for something like this to at least to build a foundation for something like this to exist. And over the course of the next year or 2 years, I think we'll slowly but surely start to see Bitcoin advance as to what you're really able to do with the asset.
And so give me some practical examples then on what you're actually building on that, whether it's DEXs or, on the smart contract side.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of our flagship products is a DEX that we built on Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin, if you compare it to other blockchains, you have these full economies of applications where you can use the asset in decentralized trading, but also lending, perp trading, all sorts of stuff. On Bitcoin, you don't even have right now basic stablecoin issuance. So first you need the ability to issue assets on Bitcoin. So that's what we've built with OpNet is now I can issue a smart contract based decentralized asset on Bitcoin. And I can also trade it within like a decentralized application like a DEX. So we built a DEX application where you could trade these assets. The next step from there would be, tokenized assets, so tokenized real world assets, stable coins. And then you get into something like lending where now I can borrow against my Bitcoin. I could borrow stablecoins against my Bitcoin. I could put up, you can create options markets on BTC. There's a lot of really, really cool real world use cases for this technology. We're kind of, I think, still in the early stage of its development, but those are some of the immediate, I think, 1 year use cases of this tech.
And what do you think this will actually mean for the layer twos? Like, because they sort of developed, as you said, because it was almost impossible at the time with the technology to do this directly on Bitcoin. So what do you think this means for the future of the layer two now that you can do this?
I think that you have certain blockchains that have very specific use cases. High frequency trading is never going to be Bitcoin's strong suit. Bitcoin is kind of very slow, but it's very secure. So this is really for the high value, high security demand trades, traders, and assets. And so if you don't need high frequency with your trading, you can settle a 10-minute settlement time, which in the real world is actually not that bad. But 10-minute settlement time compared to other blockchains where you have instant settlement basically is super slow. But it's extremely secure and extremely decentralized. So those are sort of the things that there are throughput issues with Bitcoin that will always mean that there's a market for layer 2s and non-Bitcoin blockchains. But I think we're trying to bring a lot of the unnecessary activity that has left BTC back to Bitcoin. RWAs, stablecoin trading, anything that doesn't require super high frequency, it should be used on Bitcoin.
Amazing. And final closing question to you. We've seen a lot of sort of hype or things come and go in Bitcoin. Why is this different to some of the other things that we've seen?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we built OpNet is that it's an open source and decentralized protocol. So we built this to be more like the internet for Bitcoin rather than its own blockchain. OpNet itself doesn't have a token. OpNet is it's an open source piece of tech. So it is really supposed to do what HTTPS or TCP/IP did for the internet, in which it's like a layer that allows people to use this network of computers, which is really what Bitcoin is, in a more complicated and robust way. And that's something that will live beyond the existence of my company, which is really, my company built this protocol, but we also are building applications within the ecosystem. That's really our bread and butter. But after I'm gone, this protocol will still exist just like Bitcoin does.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, it's been so great to have you coming on. Would love to have you come back and see about the journey in a year or so time. So thank you so much, Chad.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.